Hello and welcome to today's Discovery series. We're going to be talking about eating for a sharper mind. So we'll go over some recommendations of some foods that are good, some that we should avoid eating heavily, some tips and tricks, and what to focus on as you look at eating to maintain your mind and your body as well, because it all goes together, right? So I'm Meg Miller, I'm your outpatient physical therapist, and this is my monthly Discovery series. If you're watching over broadcast, I will have the handouts available in the fitness center, and then also this program will be recorded and available to watch on the Residence app later, and you can check out the other programs that are there as well. Can eating differently really help our brain? Yes. The brain is the most complex organ we have, and also one of the most important. That's why keeping it healthy is critical, especially as you get older. So some brain facts. As individuals grow older, their brain undergoes natural changes. However, the fundamental purpose of the brain remains unaltered throughout the aging process. Its primary function is to assist in comprehending the complexities of the world while simultaneously supervising an individual's day-to-day activities and overall existence. The brain serves as the epicenter of our consciousness. It regulates our cognitive abilities, such as thinking, learning, reasoning, and memory formation. Furthermore, it acts as a central command center overseeing nearly every other physiological process in our body. Unsurprisingly, this vital organ demands optimal nutrition in order to perform at its highest potential. So, how do nutrition and the brain go together? Many of us tend to dedicate more attention to assessing the fiber content in our food for the benefit for our GI tract, rather than contemplating whether we are receiving an adequate supply of nutrients to support our brain. Consider how frequently we prioritize the well-being of essential organs like the heart, bones, skin, and even the intestines and the whole gastrointestinal tract. Undoubtedly, they play vital roles in maintaining our overall health and our overall well-being. Yet, it is worth pondering how often we actually direct our attention toward nourishing the most significant organ in our body, which controls everything else, the human brain. The connection between diet and heart health is widely recognized. However, a mounting body of scientific research indicates that our dietary choices can also exert a direct impact on the functioning of our brains. This emerging field of study has been coined as neuronutrition. Compelling evidence now exists demonstrating that the consumption of specific foods can influence our mood, enhance cognitive processing speed, reduce the risk of neurodegenerative conditions such as Alzheimer's and dementia. In essence, a wholesome and balanced diet has the potential to positively affect our mental well-being and cognitive health. Considering the perpetual activity of your brain, it makes sense that we would need to think about what goes into it. It tirelessly manages your thoughts, coordinates your movement, regulates your breathing and your heartbeat, and processes information from all of your senses. Remarkably, it operates ceaselessly even during sleep, though its focus shifts when we're asleep. This unrelenting functionality necessitates a constant supply of fuel. The food you consume serves as this crucial fuel, and its composition profoundly impacts the structure, function, and ultimately the mood of your brain. In simple terms, what you eat has a direct influence on your brain's well-being. Consuming foods rich in essential vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants not only nourishes the brain, but also shields it from the detrimental effects of stress-inducing free radicals. We talk about those a lot with other organs and with the skin as well. But if we think about the brain as the driving force for everything, that needs to be protected from it as well. So what are some of the best foods for the brain? The first one we're going to talk about, because it starts with an A, is avocados. Not saying this is, the most important thing, but it's one of the things on the list, okay? This fruit is one of the healthiest ones that you can consume. While they often get a bad rap because of their high fat content, it's important to note that avocados are packed with more unsaturated fats, which is known as the good kind of fat, which helps to keep blood sugar levels steady, okay? When we talk about what we're eating and when we're eating it and how much of, each of the different nutrients, it's important to think about every time you eat something, you should have a carbohydrate, a protein, and a fat. Because if you don't, you're not checking all those boxes to keep your blood sugar stable. If you just have a carb, your blood sugar is going to go woo, okay? But if you have all of those food groups or all of those macronutrients, then your blood sugar is going to be more stable because of how your body processes everything. So having a healthy fat like avocados in some of your meals can be really, really good. So avocados also contain vitamins B, C, K, and folate. These all help prevent blood clots in the brain, protecting against stroke, as well as they help improve cognitive function, especially both memory and concentration. Next, this is more of a broad category, omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3 fats, it says, but it's the fatty acid component. Okay, so they build brain cell membranes and reduce inflammation and promote new brain cell formation. Okay, so these guys are essential for all of that building process and maintaining those cells as well. They help to improve your mood and memory and give protection against brain disorders ranging from depression to dementia. So if you do not know how many omega-3 fats you are taking into your system, you should. Because if you don't keep an eye on that, you might not be getting as many as you think you are, and also you may not be getting as many as you need, because they are essential, okay? So if we're looking at some of those potential sources, fish is our main source, and a nice fatty fish is going to be your best source. Again, we're looking at those better sources of fat, but salmon is a great example of that. There are some nuts, legumes, avocado, eggs, all of those things do have those omega-3 fats. Another one, not everybody likes these, but I do. My daughter says they taste like dirt, and yeah, they do, but that's besides the point, right? Sometimes you just got to eat your dirt and move on. So beets are root vegetables and some of the most nutritious plants that you can eat. Yes, they grow in the dirt, so they kind of taste like dirt, but you can season them or cook them in different ways. I really like pickled beets. So they reduce inflammation, they're high in cancer-protecting antioxidants, and they help rid your blood of toxins. You can also do beets in a different form, some type of a supplement. I have a powder that, again, tastes like dirt, but it has some other flavor to it, and I mix it with a couple different things so that you don't taste it as much. There's lots of different options with that, but I will mention the very best source of any nutrients that we're going to talk about today is going to come from the whole food source, okay? So if you eat a beet, you're going to get better nutrition from that than if you were to take a powdered beet supplement, okay? As far as supplement goes, there's better quality supplements and there's not as good quality supplements, but the most important thing is that you're being aware of what you're taking in, okay? Checking off these boxes of all those nutrients and minerals and everything that you do need, okay? The natural nitrates in beets, they boost your blood flow to the brain, which helps with mental performance, creating a sharper mind. My personal favorite that we're going to talk about today, blueberries, because if you do nothing else, if you take nothing else away from my presentation today, I want you to buy blueberries the next time you go to the grocery store and eat a handful of blueberries here and there throughout the day. Prefer if you do it with a little bit of protein and a little bit of good fat too. So maybe a little slice of toast with some peanut butter on it, right? Then that in itself is a complete snack, but throw a couple blueberries in it and now you've got an antioxidant packed complete snack, okay? So handful of blueberries, that's my tip for the day. So what about those blueberries? Blueberries proving that great things do come in small packages. They have so many great health benefits while tasting like an all-natural candy. One of the highest antioxidant-rich foods known to man. They also have vitamin C, K, and fiber. Because of their high levels of gallic acid, blueberries are especially good at protecting our brains from degenerating stress. Okay, walnuts. We all know the back and forth, there's different people that'll tell you, oh yeah, you should definitely eat nuts, and other people that'll tell you, no, you shouldn't eat nuts at all. Okay, well, let's err on the side of moderation, right? Somewhere in the middle is probably where the truth lies. Now, walnuts in particular do have some specific benefits that we're going to talk about. Serious snackers know there's nothing like a good nut, and science agrees. Adding walnuts to your diet, even just a handful, has a whole host of health benefits. Walnuts are a good source of omega-3 fatty acids. They also contain a variety of antioxidants, and they're a great source of vitamin B, E, and choline. Studies have shown that walnuts boost your memory and age-proof your mind. Bananas. A banana is a healthy alternative to processed foods, and it is 99.5% fat-free. Eating a banana keeps the brain functioning at its best. They contain potassium, magnesium, vitamin B6, and vitamin C, and they release energy slowly to improve concentration and help the brain to stay alert. Bananas contain tryptophan, which works to elevate the mood by stimulating serotonin production. Serotonin helps to keep the mood stable and bright. This enhances brain function by eliminating that foggy feeling, okay? So bananas are even more helpful than you thought, right? We often do think of them for their potassium and magnesium content and helping with muscle cramps and helping with our electrolyte balance, but there's other benefits as well. Now, I will caution you, a full, normal-sized banana, that's a lot of carbs just in that one package, right? So we want to think about serving size when we're talking about all of these things, because if you're tracking what's going in and trying to keep yourself, within a certain range, a whole banana is probably going to tip your scale one way more than the other. So half a banana is really closer to a full serving for a banana. All right, leafy greens. So some examples here: spinach, kale, Swiss chard, romaine lettuce, and collard greens. It turns out that Popeye was onto something with his spinach obsession. According to new research, getting regular helpings of leafy green foods can help keep dementia at bay, slow cognitive decline, and improve our memory. Leafy greens are a great source of neuroprotective lutein, folate, and beta-carotene. It's never too late to feed your brain. Over a lifetime, low-quality fuel can be a major contributing factor to declining memory performance or cognitive impairment. For those of you who have not been providing high-quality fuel for their brains, or not all the time, because that's hard, there is good news. It's never too late. So, what are some ways to get started? A great way to start is in one of the handouts. It's called Alternative Food Choices. So sometimes it can be as simple as just looking at something and going, oh, well, I usually choose this one, but there's no reason why I couldn't just substitute it with this other healthier option. So food alternatives can be defined as foods that are regarded as healthier than food that is prepared by or produced by conventional methods. So sometimes, if we're looking at making dietary changes, we might want to look at prioritizing organic for certain things. And sometimes we need to limit our protein sources, and we might be looking at more of a vegetarian diet, but I'll caution you that that's tricky to get enough protein on a vegetarian diet. I think the smarter thing for most people in most circumstances is to really be extra cautious with the quality of the proteins that they're choosing, because it can definitely be easier to get a lot of fat in your diet and a lot of bad fat in your diet if you're choosing higher fat content protein sources. Okay, so looking at some of those alternatives, we'll just go through a couple basic examples here. Everybody can probably figure this one out on their own, but instead of using oil or butter, using an extra virgin olive oil or a cooking spray, okay? Typically, you don't use as much of those when you use them either, but butter, it's easy to just throw a whole bunch in and it tastes good, right? Instead of mayonnaise, you could do mustard or avocado. Mustard is a great choice if you like the flavor of it, because mustard has nothing bad in it, right? Whereas that mayonnaise has a higher fat content. And then sometimes it might be a good option to take your regular dairy products that you would consume and trade them out for fat-free or reduced fat dairy products, or you could even trade them out for almond or soy milk. Just be careful of the sweeteners that they often will put in those types of products, but there's always unsweetened versions as well. I do an unsweetened almond milk and I really like it. Instead of potato chips, pretzels, and other processed snacks, right, that come in bags and are very heavily processed, we could do some fresh choices like nuts, olives, some low or non-fat cheeses, goat or cottage cheese, carrot sticks, hard-boiled eggs. My daughter loves cucumbers, so she likes to do cucumbers and hummus. That's a good snack around our house. But those are just some examples to kind of get you thinking, because sometimes a small little change can make a big difference. Here's some things to think about for healthy alternatives. For breakfast, we want to avoid unnecessary fatty foods and high amounts of sugar. That goes for all the time, but specifically at breakfast, those are two things that we can commonly find in breakfast foods. Going for a fat-free or a lower fat milk instead of whole or 2% can be a good option. Remembering that whole milk is really only 3% fat, so that's not a huge, you're not making a huge difference just by doing that, but it's still something to be aware of, okay? Egg whites or egg beaters instead of whole eggs. But remembering that if you do that, you shouldn't say that you're never going to consume egg yolk, right? It's high in cholesterol, but it also is high in some other really good nutrients that you do need. So again, finding that balance. Maybe one whole egg and then 2 servings of egg whites, right? To kind of find that balance instead of 6 whole eggs. Because we've all done a weekend breakfast where we've had 6 whole eggs, haven't we? No, just me? Anyway, ham or turkey bacon instead of regular bacon. There are some that taste almost as good. Kefir or Greek yogurt instead of prepackaged fruit or yogurt cups. With yogurt, if you go with a yogurt that does not have very much added sugar, preferably no added sugar, and doesn't have a whole bunch of extra junk in it, and then you add your own fresh fruit into it, that's going to be a much better option for you all the way around. But also in terms of yogurt, a lot of these yogurts will say, oh, they have live active cultures, right, of good gut bacteria. Yeah, they were alive until they added the sugar and killed them, so something to think about. All right, whole grain bagels or toasts with fruit preserves instead of a white bagel or toast with butter. Again, when you're looking at those jellies, fruit preserves, whatever, if you go with something that says fruit preserve and has little to no added sugar, that's a much better product, right? We don't need added sugar when we're already having fruit that already has sugar in it. Just let that be the sweet for it, okay? And then using some sugar alternatives like agave syrup, maple syrup, or fresh fruit instead of store-bought syrup. Because if you've read the label on store-bought syrup, bleh, not sure why that was a tongue twister, but if you've read that label, it's really more chemicals than it is something you would consider food. So anytime there's things in the ingredient list that you can't pronounce, maybe might not want to eat it. All right, so now we'll talk about lunch. Doing some leafy green salads with light or vinegar-based dressing instead of iceberg lettuce with creamy dressing. A lot of us like to ruin our salads with some creamy dressing and some heavy toppings and all of this stuff. I always say the salad's only as good as the toppings that you can put on it, right? Who wants to just eat lettuce? But again, making that choice of a light version or a vinegar-based dressing instead of something creamy, because again, it's more that fat content than anything. But even with those light or vinegar-based dressings, you still want to make sure there's not a whole lot of added sugar. And I always like to throw a whole bunch of nuts and fruit and all kinds of stuff like that on my salad, and then you're getting a little benefit from that too. So trying something like skim mozzarella or light cheddar instead of other fatty cheeses. Going with a light mayonnaise with olive oil or mustard instead of a regular mayonnaise. Whole wheat pitas and whole wheat bread instead of white bread. And again, with that whole wheat bread instead of a white bread, one of the biggest things we're getting there is some more variety to what we're putting in. So that whole wheat has more of the whole kernel of the wheat. And our body has to work harder to break that down, but we also get additional nutrients from that as well. Whereas the white bread, our body breaks it down really quickly, turns it right to sugar, processes it, and it's done. So a couple things there. Okay, going with a baked turkey or chicken instead of salty deli meats. Again, if you've read the actual label on those deli meats that they're slicing up, you probably would make a different choice. There's all kinds of chemical preservatives and things like that in deli meats. And then looking at dinner, a lean ground beef or ground turkey or ground chicken instead of regular ground beef. Looking at that fat content, once you change to a turkey or a chicken, you can immediately drop that fat content pretty quickly, but there are lots of options for your fat content for ground beef as well. Fresh or frozen vegetables instead of canned. Okay, canned vegetables are better than no vegetables, but your fresh or your fresh frozen are a better choice because more of the nutrients are preserved. A chicken breast instead of a chicken thigh or leg, again, that's fat content. And no skin on your chicken, sorry. That's a lot of fat content there as well. Fish or tofu instead of red meat. Again, if that's something that you're looking to avoid, I think that red meat can be an important part of many people's diet, and there's nothing wrong with it in moderation. You wouldn't want to eat it every night. Brown rice or quinoa instead of white rice, and again, that's a similar reason to the whole grain bread. Our body has to break down more of that product, and also there are additional nutrients there. And then whole wheat or brown rice pasta instead of white pasta. There's all kinds of interesting things they're making pasta out of these days, so I encourage you to try something different. If you put a nice fresh sauce on it, it'll taste good. Some of them have a little bit of different texture, so you might have to get used to that. It's important to keep portion control in the forefront of your mind for all meals, especially dinner, because sometimes we can have a little more on our plate than what we needed, and we can override our body's signals that we're getting full because it tastes good, right? And again, remembering that we want to have all three of those macronutrients, so a protein, a fat, and a carbohydrate. And then dessert. Some healthy alternatives here could be fruit with yogurt dip, chocolate dipped frozen bananas, frozen blueberries or grapes, sorbet instead of ice cream, pudding with granola, baked apple with cinnamon, peanut butter on a graham cracker, rice cakes with peanut butter spread. Okay, so not your traditional desserts, but we can work with it, right? You put a little bit of chocolate on anything, I mean, it's better than where it started, right? Okay. Anyone have any favorite food alternatives or snacks they want to share? Anybody creative? I love avocados. What have I been doing lately? I'm so boring, I eat the same thing. I don't recommend that. But it helps me plan. And more frequent meals can be a helpful thing too, because then you don't eat as much at one sitting. I find that to be helpful. But another point to timing, you should be eating something in the morning, okay? Even if you feel like, oh, I can get up and go and I'll eat at lunchtime. It's really better for your system to have a stable source of, blood sugar. So keeping your blood sugar stable is really the best way to go for most people. Now, if you're doing some kind of fasting or something, or if your doctor says, hey, you need to change this timing around a medication or something, right? There are some medications you have to take on an empty stomach. That's important. Mind your timing with that. But in general, you should be eating within an hour of when you get up to really kick your body into that state that you wanted in for the day of keeping your blood sugar nice and stable, okay? So, in summary, the right foods will help you to use your brain to the max, and the more you use it, the more you'll challenge your brain to grow new cells, create new connections, and improve your problem solving and memory functions. Because with the brain, it is true that if you don't use it, you lose it, okay? So, feeding the brain good food and stimulating the brain by doing activities that are challenging are the ways that we keep some of those changes related to age at bay. Anybody have any questions? I hear you.
There's at Sunnyside, they made up some salads with just spinach. But the other ones, it's just all iceberg lettuce. There's nothing mixed. And of course, me, I have AS, but I don't get much of an answer.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I will tell you that it is always worth asking, especially if you have specific questions or specific recommendations. It's always worth asking because I have asked questions and gotten some good responses.
They have mixed salads at the bistro.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the salads at the bistro do often have a nice mix to them, to the lettuce.
That'd be nice if they can do it other places too.
I agree. That's a great suggestion.
Maybe they need to get together. And just like with fish, they do serve fish, but a lot of times it's so breaded.
Yeah.
To get through all the breading, you might as well not even eat the fish.
Right, and I wonder if sometimes it might be an option to get it without. We'll just have to ask.
Regular menu under simply prepared is a pretty simply prepared patty. And the salmon's pretty. You can get it without the sauces and stuff.
That's good. That's a good option, yeah. I mean, typically I would say a lot of things are going to be a little bit healthier if you don't have the breading or you don't have, a heavy sauce on it and things like that. And sometimes that can't be avoided. But when it can, I mean, it's at least worth asking. And then the other piece to that I would say is you can always supplement with other things too. If you have a small portion of something that may not be optimally healthy, that's not going to ruin your entire day if you supplement with other good things for the rest of your meals. It's all about moderation, friends. No all or nothing mentality. All about moderation. We've got this far, right? It's a good sign. Yeah, Sue.
I think it's worth people notice this, but the two green sheet, the menus that are always there, they have recently changed. They have a little more information, calorie count.
Oh, good.
They have changed. It's worth looking how the differences are compared to the old.
Yeah, that's helpful. Yep. Remember to be looking for those things, looking for things that are changing and updated, and also whenever you can, asking questions or making recommendations. Hey, why couldn't it be like this too? Or why can't this also be an option? All right, thanks for coming, everybody.